Islam's view of the world. Islam versus the West. During the Dark Ages, European civilization endured 500 years of stagnation and decline due to the dominance of the Catholic Church in Europe. Next, strife between Catholics and Protestants threatened to destroy Christian society. Finally, Christianity saved itself by separating church and state and introducing the concept of nationalism, a nation-state based on geographic boundaries, ethnicity, and language to determine personal identity and political loyalty. Nationalism and the expulsion of the church from government was a success. It resurrected Christian Europe from decline. 300 years of world domination began with the discovery of the Americas, then the Industrial Revolution, as Europe led the world into the era of modernity. Europe also exported its Western culture and concept of nationalism to the entire world. However, nationalism, which evolved from Christianity's historic trials, would never integrate successfully into the world of Islam, where loyalty could only be to God, the sovereign of the world and all mankind. Islamic identity.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Understanding the centrality of Islam in the lives of Muslims is the key to understanding Islam. For Muslims, the foundation of identity and loyalty revolves around religion, while the religio-political community defines nationhood. Religion distinguishes those who belong to the society from those who are outside of it. In 1917, the Grand Vizier of the Ottoman Empire stated, "The fatherland of a Muslim is the place where the holy law of Islam prevails." An Egyptian Muslim, for example, feels closer bonds to a Pakistani Muslim than to an Egyptian Christian, as Muslims of different countries, even speaking different tongues, have a shared feeling of a divinely guided past and a sense of a mutual plight and destiny. The Ummah, political authority and communal life. For Muslims, the true and sole sovereign is God, from whose mandate the Prophet Muhammad derived his authority, and from whose will, made known by revelation, is the sole source of political and religious law. The political community of Islam is known as the Ummah. From its inception, the Ummah was the fusion of politics and religion. The Prophet Muhammad founded and presided over an Islamic government as prophet and head of a state, and founded an empire whose followers understood worldly success and military victory were part of divine affirmation. Therefore, the teachings of Islam have social and political goals with the purpose of succeeding in this world, in politics, warfare, diplomacy, and economics. Consequently, in Islam, religion is not merely one segment of life. It regulates the total domain. In Islam's view of the world, mankind is divided into two irreconcilable camps: the territory of Islam, Dar al-Islam, and the territory of war, Dar al-Harb. All lands under Islamic control are considered Dar al-Islam, where Islamic law reigns. Those lands beyond Islamic control are Dar al-Harb, the territory of war, essentially the rest of the world. The Prophet Muhammad is said to have said, "Al-Kufru millatun wahida," unbelief is one nation. In the Islamic view, all of mankind will one day accept Islam or submit to its rule.
Inshallah, Islam همه کجا رو فتح خواهد کرد؟ همه قله‌های جهان رو فتح خواهد کرد.
Logically then, Islam cannot recognize political borders nor permanent peace treaties with Dar al-Harb. Therefore, according to Ibn Taymiyyah, a 14th century Muslim jurist, any act of war against Dar al-Harb is morally justified, legal, and exempt from any ethical judgment. Islamism on the rise. Islamism is on the march. getting ready for what it considers to be a coming fateful war for the future of Islam. Since its Islamic Revolution of 1979, Iran has been the undisputed leader of the Islamic revival.
امروز همه ملت‌ها بیدارند و ملت ایران پرچمدار بیداری همه ملت‌هاست.
Islamism is an indigenous grassroots movement championed by both poor and educated Muslims throughout the Muslim world. Islam is the solution, is the Islamist call to action against westernization and secular governments in the Muslim world that provide the masses with little hope or future. Islamism is an internal struggle for the future of Islam, not a war against the West. Islamists do not consider themselves to be revolutionaries, in the sense of revolution changing society in a new way. Rather, Islamists strive to rebuild internally by applying traditional principles to re-establish the past strength and glory of Islam. Islamist writer Säyer, in Signposts on the Path, wrote, "The leadership of Western man in the human world is coming to an end. Not because Western civilization is materially bankrupt or has lost its economic or military strength, but because the Western order has played its part and no longer possesses that stock of values which gave it its predominance. The turn of Islam has come."
باید بپذیرند که از اداره عادلانه و رو به پیشرفت جهان عاجزند.
To simply dismiss Islamists as extremists is short-sighted. Islamism represents the only serious alternative to the present forms of government in the Muslim world and represents the innermost aspirations of Muslims across Dar al-Islam. The Pillars of Islam, Foundations of Faith and Empire. The religion of Islam. The doctrine of Islam holds that Islam is the only true and eternal religion. The Prophet Muhammad pronounced that he did not found a new religion, but rather was a messenger, calling humanity back to the one true path. Muhammad preached that Christian and Jewish scriptures were divine revelations, but had been altered over the centuries, such that they could no longer be trusted. Belief in Islam is also known as the straight path. Islam has no priests nor bishops, and even the ulama, the learned men, expert in Islamic doctrines and practices, are not set apart from others in Islam. All Muslims are equal in the Islamic way of life. The Quran. The Quran is the divine and sacred foundation of Islamic law, consisting of God's revelations to Muhammad by the angel Gabriel. Written in 114 chapters, or surahs, the Quran contains commandments, rules, ethical regulations, historical recreations, and wise sayings. An unswerving belief and devotion to the Quran is essential to all Muslims. The Hadith. Muslims derive spiritual nourishment and daily guidance from a supplement to the Quran called the Hadith. Muhammad conveyed many edicts on justice, property, responsibilities, and personal and family behavior that make up the Hadith, considered the tradition of Islam. The 5 pillars of Islam. Profession of faith, Shahada. You must profess these words. La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasul Allah. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. Anyone who says these words and believes them is a Muslim. Prayer, Salat. While facing Mecca, the holy city of Islam, believers must purify themselves with either water or desert sand and pray 5 times a day. Prayer time includes reciting special verses, kneeling, and prostrating oneself. Fasting, Psalm. The purpose of fasting is to commemorate Muhammad's hijrah from Mecca to Medina. During the month of Ramadan, no Muslim is allowed to eat, drink, or smoke during daylight hours. However, at night, families and friends gather for huge meals. Giving of alms, zakat. Muhammad proclaimed that each Muslim, except the very poor, was required to contribute a portion of his or her wealth, about 2.5%, to the poor. Pilgrimage, Hajj. This requires every Muslim who is economically and physically able to make a journey to the holy city of Mecca at least once in a lifetime. Each year, Muslims congregate at the shrine of the Kaaba in Mecca to circle the Kaaba, kiss the black stone, run between the nearby hills of Safa and Marwa, stone a pillar near Mina, representing the devil, sacrifice sheep, and assemble on the plain of Arafat. Jihad. The 5 pillars do not cover all Muslim duties. Jihad is a communal religious duty for Muslims. During the early centuries of Islamic expansion, raising the sword against Harbi